On May the 28th, 1987, a 19-year-old German decided to single-handedly improve East-West relations. He flew through the world's most closely guarded airspace, and his arrival in Moscow's Red Square shook the Kremlin to its very foundations. His name is Matthias Rust, and you can read his account of what really happened only in the Mail on Sunday. The Mail on Sunday, a newspaper, not a snooze paper.
Four minutes past midday, the Fix-It phone-in brought to you in association with Texas Home Care, and Gerard Sauer is here to answer all your motoring problems on 353-8111. Very good morning to you, Gerard.
Good morning, Therese.
We usually start off by talking about what goes on underneath the bonnet, but in fact this week we're talking about more what's happening inside the car, and in particular what happens to drivers as they're driving, aren't we?
That's right.
An interesting new angle.
As some engineer once said, the most important bit in the car is the nut behind the steering wheel.
Yes, that's true enough, isn't it? Actually, I suppose when people buy a new car, one of the things they might not take quite so seriously is driving position and comfort for the driver and things like
absolutely right, Therese. It's amazing how quickly you can get into a car and take up a position which you feel comfortable with and think you are comfortable with, but you have no way of checking whether you're actually anatomically right for the pedals and the steering wheel. And there are actually two very simple checks that you can use to check how you are sitting in front of the steering wheel. And the way to do it is as follows. You sit in the seat as per normal, and you depress the clutch pedal right down to the floor as far as it will go. Now, with it fully depressed, you then move the bottom of the seat forward or backwards in such a way that with the clutch fully depressed there is a slight bend in your leg, so that you still have some travel left in your leg, so to speak. You could still go deeper down on the clutch if possible, so that your leg would not be stretched out fully with the clutch fully depressed. And that places the base of your spine correct to the pedal assembly itself, so that the throttle, the brake and the clutch pedals can be reached easily and properly. And the second check you do is you sit with your back against the seat back, and you hold the steering wheel at 2:45, precisely at 2:45. And then you turn the steering wheel to the right or to the left, crossing your arms. So hold on to the wheel, don't let go of the steering wheel, cross your arms right over. And when you do that, you must be able to have a slight bend in your arm, at your elbow, in such a way that you hold the steering wheel on and your back is still on the seat back, so that you're still in contact with the back of the seat, and that gives you the right upright position in relation to the center of the steering wheel boss. And then you are what we call in a nice relaxed position. Your elbows are down. You do not drive with outstretched arms.
I was going to say, when you see motor racing drivers, they often have outstretched arms, don't they?
Well, the modern ones don't anymore. The stretched arm theory came from the age when Stirling Moss and Jim Clark and these people were driving, and the reason was that not because that's the way they were the most comfortable. In fact, it was most uncomfortable. But the cars were designed in such a way that the driver had to lie down, and the only way to make him operate the steering wheel was to have it somewhere in between his legs, and therefore he had to stretch his arms to reach it, and a very small little steering wheel. Modern day Grand Prix drivers and rally drivers, which is more akin to road driving, rally drivers are sitting close on the wheel, to such extent that the elbows are right down and you're sitting quite close to the center of the boss, because that gives you the most movement capability with your muscles in your arm. The top of your arms are the ones you should be steering with, and not your shoulders, because it's a very common mistake to make. Apart from anything else, that position with the stretched out arms is also extremely tiring, because what it does is it closes your chest in. You do not breathe easily. Whereas if you sit down, it opens your chest out, and your elbows are down, you can breathe freely, and you are in a naturally relaxed position. Whereas with your arms straight out, you're tense. It is tension making. And so for longer periods, especially if you say 2 or 3 hours behind the steering wheel, you will find that it is extremely tiring. If you drove with your arms nicely down and relaxed, and my arms stretched out, after 3 hours I'd be totally spent, and you'd be as fresh as a daisy, really. So it's very important, this positioning.
What about the size of the steering wheel? In some cases, to make cars look sportier, steering wheels have been reduced in size, haven't they?
Right. Again, that comes from motorsport driving, where they have so-called high-ratio steering racks, which move very fast. And to aid further quick moving of the steering wheel, you make the steering wheel smaller. But if you've got biceps like Superman, then that's great, you know. But in every day road driving, and especially in and around town, it is absolutely impossible. So do not buy a steering wheel on your car that's particularly small. And there are some front-wheel drive cars now that would be better off having power steering, because in town they are just a pain, you know.
Yes, yes, I know. I've got a small steering wheel on my car, which actually looks quite sporty, but when it comes to actually manoeuvring in and out of parking and so on, it's exhausting with a small steering
that's
wheel.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Now, mirrors, very important, the positioning of mirrors.
That's right. In order to be in control of the situation, you've got to be aware what goes on around you, and being able to look behind you, both to the side of the car as well as in the center on the interior mirror, is extremely important. So that once you sit behind the wheel, then the mirrors fall into place. Now, the standard practice is to just set your interior mirror and leave the outside mirrors to themselves. But no, try and get the mirrors to give you the widest angle of view outside the car. So don't make half the car sit inside the mirror image. No, make sure that you see most of the road, both sides. Equally with the windscreen wipers. It is such a stupid thing to drive along the road, and especially at night when it rains and the wipers are switched on and they don't clear the windscreen. In relation to an accident, windscreen wiper blades are extremely cheap. And so frequent replacement is the formula for keeping them nice and in good trim, so that when you switch them on, they immediately, right there and then, clear the screen properly.
Right, now once you are driving, any tips for smooth gear changes?
If you know, let's assume you're comfortable behind the steering wheel, you've got all your controls in the right place, the mirrors are correct, and you can see out of the window properly. Now train yourself to not drive in a jerky fashion. Make the gear changes nice and smooth. Make very definite movements from one gear to the next, and let the clutch come in. Don't let it just bang in and then back on the throttle again. No, ease them in, both the throttle and the clutch pedal. Similarly, when you are braking, once you begin to use the brakes by applying them gradually and then increasing the pressure as you near the target where you want to go slower, then that way, A, the brakes have a much easier time of it, so you wear your pads out much less. And second, to you, the driver, that's much less tiring, because unbeknownst to you, if you come herring into a corner and you make a sudden move, your muscles will try to resist going forward, even though you've got your seatbelt on, even though you are comfortable in the seat. Your body will still try to resist the forward movement. And that is effort that you do not need to spend if you nice and gradually apply the brake pedal. Similarly with steering. Throw the car into the corner, your body tries to resist that movement. Again, it makes you tired easier and quicker, and also, and perhaps much more important, it is much less safe. You are less in control of the situation than if you drive smoothly.
How about tips for long distance driving then, in comfort?
Well, in general, the first thing to do is, whenever you go for a long distance drive, and a long distance I would say is anything beyond 35-40 minutes, where your concentration has to be kept high, because funnily enough you go onto a motorway and after about 25 minutes your concentration will begin to lapse. It doesn't matter who you are or what you are, that is a fact. Human capability to concentrate on one thing at a time is limited to about 20-25 minutes, is generally reckoned anyway. And so you need to train yourself to let your eyes do little exercises. Look up in the distance, look in the mirror, get into a little routine that allows you to constantly check what's in front of you and behind you. And then, as you go along, exercise your hands, maybe your arms, your legs. It seems funny, but you know, the way you keep your body nice and relaxed behind the steering wheel and least tired and therefore most alert is by constantly being aware that this is not a natural position. Driving a car, after all, is not a natural position. Man wasn't born onto a seat, you know, that is very unnatural. So you have to really work at keeping yourself alert and alive. Then, of course, on top of that, frequently stop for a rest. Do not think that you can drive to Scotland from here and run solidly for 4 hours, because by the time you're into your third hour, you are a danger to yourself and other road users. So stop, have a break, stretch your limbs, look around, maybe 10-15 minutes at a time, but just, you know, stop and don't carry on driving.
Fresh air is quite crucial, I think, isn't it,
Absolutely
when it comes
right.
to staying alert? Yeah. Well, lots of people waiting to talk to you now, Gerard,
Okay.
on 353 8111.
Good day, sir, and welcome to Warwick Wright Chiswick, one of London's finest. How may I assist you?
Do Peugeot make spacecraft?
Spacecraft?
With rockets and boosters and lots of those twiddly bits, yes.
No. But we do have the Peugeot 309 Apollo with a host of twiddly bits for just 4,000.